is Shelley Mullen here from the NEO Fund. And Shelley is a native of Ashtabula, and she refers to herself as one of the boomerangs, someone who adamantly moves away from Ashtabula County and then very willingly comes back. In a variety of roles, Shelley focuses on community and economic development, serving as chair of the Lithbridge Community Association, business development for NEO Fund, and most recently, project manager for Tourism's strategic plan for Ashtabula County. She sits on several boards and looks for any opportunity to help inspire and move people toward their greatest potential. Please welcome our speaker this morning, Shelley Mullen.
Great job, Laura. I'm glad I wore this kiss up pin, the leadership pin. Good morning, everyone. And again, Happy New Year. It's great to be here with all of you. I want to let everyone know that Tim McCarthy is in the house. Everyone that I ran into yesterday who was asking about profiles asked whether or not Tim would be able to be here with us. So we want to let you know that your commitment and your dedication is obviously recognized, and we appreciate your being here with us. I am here to talk to you today about NEO Fund. And the first thing I would like to make clear is that NEO does not stand for Northeastern Ohio, but rather New Entrepreneurs Opportunity Fund. And just to get a little bit of the technical jargon and the alphabet soup out of the way, NEO Fund is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are a community development financial institution, which means that we can apply to the federal government, the U.S. Treasury, for TA funds, technical assistance funds, as well as FA funds for our revolving loan fund. But initially, we were privately funded by two very generous and loving people, Alice and Tim McCarthy. Now, they both can't stand when we use their name, but unfortunately, we're talking behind your back anyway, Tim, so we might as well talk. They put up about $250,000 to invest specifically in this fund. They've invested about $645,000 total, but in this specific fund, NEO Fund, it's been about $250,000.
You are in so much trouble.
What's new? I'd like to use some words of Oprah Winfrey to sort of frame things up. She says that I've come to believe that each of us has a personal calling that's as unique as a fingerprint, and that the best way to succeed is to discover what you love and then find a way to offer it to others in the form of service, working hard, and also allowing the energy of the universe to lead you. I resonate with those words, and that's how I move forward with this and the other roles that I play in Ashtabula County. In my words, I believe that we all are looking for more and more places to go with who it is that we are. That each of us has a unique gift, and when we bring that unique gift or talent or ability forward toward the greater whole, that's when we experience the greatest joy and that we feel that we're living our best lives. NEO Fund for Ashtabula County is a means to that end. In cooperation with all of the other great organizations that we partner with, we in Ashtabula County are recognizing that we no longer have to apologize for who and what we are. Ashtabula County is beautiful and full of excellence, very naturally. And we're just looking for more and more ways for ourselves and for others to experience that. So if we look at the challenges as merely challenges, and we've been looking at the same challenges that really not only ourselves, but all around the country, of stagnant economies and losing our X and Y and millennium generations. The perception that we have an insufficient microlending capacity and shrinking tax base, crumbling infrastructure. If we lift our heads up and begin to look at things as opportunities, how is it that we can turn those challenges into opportunities, burdens into blessings? The great thing about NeoFund is that really our job is to recognize that the best of the best that leave have an opportunity to come back home. They would never leave to begin with if they felt that they could stay in Ashtabula County to raise their kids, to be with family, if they could afford their own livelihoods. And what they're looking for is really someone who can help them move towards their dream. NeoFund got its start when the bridge went up in the air and a bunch of people got together to figure out how it was that we were not only going to survive, but to thrive. And we got 20, I think at the time, it was 20 committed members, committed people throughout the community to say that we want to try to develop that district, a 2-block area to begin with, as a regional destination for tourism, recreation, and entertainment. We got people who were interested in improving the property, people who wanted to become the proprietors inside those rehabilitated properties. All of them being committed to the overall goal. And I call them the 3 Ps. If you get high quality property owners that get high quality proprietors, you will in turn attract high quality patrons. The same time that we were organizing as an organization, an association, the Lethbridge Community Association, Tim and Alice moved to Ashtabula. And they said, hey, we like what's happening in the harbor. If there's something we can do, please let us know. We would like to do our part. Well, what we were lacking was selfless business support and sometimes, and not always, capital to either start up or expand a business. Now, mind you that some of the businesses on Bridge Street were in business for maybe a year or two, but they were working 80 hours a week and not paying themselves. Some were sitting on lawn chairs, literally, trying to get ahead in a hole and still digging. So the analogy that I use to describe how Tim shows us how to get more by doing less is the analogy that it's like we're running on treadmills. And our goal is to go from here to Conneaut and back nonstop, and we're burning all this energy, and it's 6 months later and we burn out the treadmill, and now our thinking is, I have to buy another treadmill. We're looking around trying to find someone, how can I get another treadmill? Someone would say, why don't you talk to Tim, see what he would recommend. The first thing Tim would say is, tell me about yourself. In other words, let's slow down. Let's look at who you are. We're not inclined to slow down, especially when we're budding entrepreneurs. We're usually freaking out, anxiety-ridden, and the last thing we want to hear is slow down. But it does make us stop and think, who are we and what are we doing? When we're done, Tim will say, now, what do you want to do with your life? At that point, you need to know what your goal is. And whatever it is that you're doing, you need to explain to Tim, how is it that what you're doing is getting you closer and closer to your goal? But what we find out is we're busy like crazy burning up treadmills, thinking we need to go out and spend more money and buy another treadmill, when really all we have to do is, what Tim would say, stop. Take one step to the right and one step forward, and immediately you're already closer to goal. You're doing less and getting more. So Tim is helping us to turn our burdens into blessings by helping us to focus on the things that count the most. And we're not expending all of our energy on the things that really are getting us nowhere. This is what I call the unorthodox approach. What we found is that if people could find a way to come back home, they'll do it. And Bridge Street has pretty much every single one who started a business down there. I think primarily all of them moved back to Ashtabula, including myself. I call them the 30-something heretics, the harbor heretics. And I discussed how it is that we're looking to cultivate success and sustainability by doing less and getting more. Because what Tim shows us, it works. We're banking the unbankable, which doesn't mean that they're coming up with lousy business plans or financials that don't make any sense. We're willing to bank someone who has a very strong business plan and very good financial forecast, but are not typically someone that someone wants to believe in because they've never owned a restaurant before, or selling beach glass because you actually make a living doing that. But the ticket into the door is solid business plan and good financials, and showing that you're coachable. There's a relationship that's being established. That's probably the most unorthodox part of our approach, is that we will be with you throughout the entire life cycle of your business. So it's starting with the business plan, helping you with that, getting your financials together, forecasts, but knowing that there's a commitment. If we move forward with this and fund this idea, this dream, that we will be with you the entire life cycle up to creating an exit plan. So that's really why we're able to bank the unbankable. The relationship, as Tim would say, there's a very short umbilical cord. And we're embracing those who are going to come into the county and not be status quo. They're the change agents for this community. People that go down to Bridge Street will often say, that's the best barbecue I've ever had. Or beach glass, I never even knew it existed. And then they end up buying a home because Troy and Lori are so good at describing it that they love the community and they're engaging people in what they do. Ryan, you're here, and I want to let you know that someone just the other day said there's been plenty of owners in that building, but they felt that you were by far the best. So it's quality again. And it's family. You can't get too close to Tim McCarthy without feeling his gravity. I mean, he's a tremendous, loving man. He's disciplined, and he'll teach you discipline, but you're family. So the typical disciplined approach that we follow, again, is we're looking to get these heretic type, incredibly talented and motivated 30-somethings to start a business that is going to provide the products and services that are in demand and do it in a way that really sets us apart. The readiness is really shown whether or not, if they can come up with a business plan and financials. Typically, 99% when you ask for that, you never see them. We prepare them for a loan review committee. We do loans up to $40,000, I believe it's $40,000. And the loan review committee will determine whether or not they're ready. If they feel that they probably need to tweak things up, they'll let them go back. It's not that it's a no and we never want to see you again. It's go ahead, give you some advice, maybe some things to consider, and then you can always go back. If you do get a loan with NEO Fund, we do ask that you commit yourself to monthly workshops. And it's not just that you attend, but that you be a part of it. So all of us throughout this life cycle are committed to being both student and teacher. That includes as well. Why are we doing this? Because micro enterprises and micro entrepreneurs, it's where it's at. Statistically, this is where we need to go, and we're fortunate that we are a small community. We're a small county. We're rural. We have these great districts where we're looking for small, specialized businesses. Those are the ones that are going to be able to stick these days. We're not looking to compete against the Walmarts. As a matter of fact, you want to sell everything except what Walmart sells. When the bridge went up in the air, our concern was, geez, if one side of the street is shut down, will people still want to find us? Well, if you're shopping at Carlisle's, if you want their gift items, you'll go. You have to be good enough and attractive enough that people will want to be down there. And people probably can't imagine, but a small business on Bridge Street that's bringing in $250,000, $300,000 a year can support a family. As a matter of fact, here's some of the 2012 results. And mind you, we've had, I think we're up to 18 loans, and they're to 12 individuals or businesses. So some of them have multiple loans. They've expanded 2 or 3 times. They brought in $3 million in gross annual revenue in 2012. And they're employing 74 people. So far, we have had 0 loan defaults, 0 late payments, and 2 early payoffs. So again, the process and the program works. Some of the byproducts and the current successes. We've been able to revitalize the community, and we'll continue to revitalize communities throughout Ashtabula County because we're partnering with like-minded, like-motivated people and like-mission organizations. We've inspired 3 major events. We'll have a brand new event July on Bridge Street called TABS, the Arts on Bridge Street, which will showcase and celebrate the unique offerings and expressions of Ashtabula County. In the past, the Beach Blast Festival and the Wine and Walleye. The Beach Blast Festival is Troy and Lori Dalrymple's. They put that event together. And of course, the Wine and Walleye is the Chamber of Commerce. That's their major fundraiser for the year. Those 2 events bring in roughly $500,000. So to add a 3rd event, it really is a shot in the arm in just a very short period of time. I talked again about the partnerships of like-minded, like-motivated, the 3 Ps. To revitalize a district and to get a core together, you want your property owners to be very vested in getting great proprietors to attract great patrons. We're appealing to a high-quality demographic, and we're a part of this new age experience economy. people don't only go to the workshops because they have to. We've had actually standing room only. People want to go and feel that there's a great purpose to being there. All in all, providing character-based loans means that talented, community-minded entrepreneurs meet their life goals as they positively impact the communities they serve. Again, we're going back to a virtuous cycle of economic development and community development. Some of our success stories. The Spazitos, of course, have the Harbor Perk. I think they're burning over 1,000 pounds of coffee beans per month. The Dalrymples have expanded 3 times. They own the beaches and they added repair and they've added a boutique and they repurchased Mary Ann's chocolates. Nate Rockwell and John Stenger own briquettes. They are expanding across the street. They also own Bascule Bridge Grill, so there will be 3 expansions with Nate Rockwell and John Singer. And of course, Ryan and Amy Watts of River's Edge Diner, and their 2 lovely daughters. The Heats, they're in Conneaut. They have Heats Market. They have 5 children, and they're supporting themselves with their market now. And I call them the Docs, Geneva Chiropractic in Geneva. The advisory team, these are the folks that sit on our loan review committee. I'm sure you recognize these names. Roy Bean of the SBA, Bob Hayfield, Stu Cordell, who is also our director and secretary for Neofund, Troy Dalrymple, Dave Jones of Mary's Diner, and Alice McCarthy. Here's some of our neighbors and friends. Of course, not listing all of them, but just to give you an idea that we don't do this all alone. We're doing great things with other great people and great organizations. A little bit of a timetable. Again, about $250,000 committed up front. We applied last year for a $96,000 TA grant and were awarded $92,000, and I believe it was the highest percentage that was offered to anyone who applied for the grant. We're seeking additional loan monies. Talked to Sean Radican and hoping to partner with the Ashtabula County Port Authority as an example. We will be applying, or it already went out, I don't know if it's going out soon if it hasn't, a grant for $600 so that we would be able to loan out $200,000 per year over the next 3 years. So that we would be at $1 million by 2016 to have gross interest income to allow us to be self-sustaining, to have loans to about 35 businesses and employ roughly 200 people. As part of our team, Bill Lehman is the executive director of the Business of Good, another of the foundation of Tim Dallas in Cleveland. And at this time, I would like to have Tim come up here and add his philosophical brilliance.
I got to try to think how to come up with some philosophical brilliance. So Shelley's in big trouble because when I was starting my business in '87, I was sitting in the rotunda at the Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, and scared out of my mind, trying to go in and beg for some business. And I looked up, and I know it's still there because I was there recently. And it's like this huge. Coca-Cola does everything rather big. And it's this huge rotunda, and up, carved in stone, it says, "There's no limit to what a person can do who doesn't mind who gets the credit." So I'm not a humble guy. I mean, my wife will tell you that. 37 years. Kind of a pain in the ass with my ego, actually. But I just really have never had any success in groups that are looking for credit. And so it's pretty important to us to not take credit. And we beg the same from anybody else who is involved in us. If something goes good, it's going to go good because everybody kind of gets in the game and works for something better over time. So I'm hoping you're sitting there asking what you can do, right? So what can we do? I should make you do it all together. So what can we do? And I'm involved in some of you may have known my brother David. He's in the process of passing. I actually came from his bedside to be with you and going right back this afternoon. And I thought of a parallel to what I've been experiencing the last 2 weeks with hospice and with 5 of my 7 surviving siblings being at David's side. And that is, we all do poorly when we're trying too hard. So most of you have been in a situation that's as dire as the siblings passing. And most of you know the tension builds pretty wildly. And I noticed something that I think applies to what we're talking about today, and that is, every one of my sibs, or his son and daughter, his wife, all of his friends that are around, really get in the way when they try to do too much. Does that make sense to you? I mean, seriously, it's like they're trying to be good, and as a result, they're causing all kinds of pain for everybody around. And so my sister said something pretty interesting to me a couple of days ago, and that was, we only do well what we do gladly. And so that kind of sitting there kind of became my theme today. It occurred to me to say, what can you do? Well, only what you can do gladly. And well, I play guitar, so I sit and sing okay. And so I sit at the end of my brother's bed and sing and play guitar. Then I get the hell out of there. You know, because the nurses need to do their job or whatever. But if I try to do too much, I'll get in his wife's way or I'll get in somebody else. You know what I mean? So, how does that apply to here? Well, actually, I'll give you some examples. Be the way to do it. So, first of all, there's only one David's wife, Linda, and in our case, that's Stuart Cordell. There's only one Stu. He's the guy who gives a ridiculous amount of his time for free. A ridiculous amount of his investment is tied up in the street. He's proud to say he's been invested in Bridge Street buildings for over 20 years and not made a dime. Not the most intelligent comment I've ever heard, but it's the truth. You know. And so, yeah, but there's only a certain amount of Stews. So I get excited when I see Larry and Cassie. They don't own the business. They're out volunteering, doing weeds, fixing up the area, helping out Mike DeFina, who's our beautification person. You know, they're doing what they can and what they can do gladly and what they can do well and with a good spirit, you know. Tom Pickin. I'm not even sure Tom understands what we're doing down there. Don't tell him I said it. But Tom loves to build things. And he builds beautiful stuff. He's already changed, completely transformed 2 buildings down there. Like he transformed my father and mother's home. It's a beautiful thing to watch Tom going down there every day and just doing what he does well. And believe me, he ain't making any money either. But that's what he does well, and that's what he wants to do. It makes him happy to do it. Ron Keister, he says yes. That's all he does. Well, you know, I mean, if you need something and you go to Ron, it's likely that unless he can't, he's going to say yes, as he's done for us twice that I can think of that were pretty important times. I so worry about getting involved and saying things on the government side because I'm so careful. You know, we don't want advocacy and we stay away from all that, but there's 3 commissioners and a city manager and a couple of council people that hit me right away as people that keep going to Shelley and saying, what can we do? What can we do? And when there's been a couple of times so far that something was needed, boom, they're there. They can do that well. They can do it wisely. They're not trying to do something they can't do. Right, Joe? And it can be way simpler. So we haven't figured out the direct connection to Kent State so far, so Sue Stocker just makes sure she shops a lot and dines a lot down there. So if you haven't figured out what you can do yet, come on down and have a meal or dine or go to the Geneva Spinal Clinic if you want a chiropractor, or go over to East Marketplace. It's a cool place over in Conneaut. And even one of the best things that we get done is by a girl named Toni Carlisle, who Shelley and I get a call at least twice a month from somebody who says, oh, we were just talking to Toni about maybe someday we'd like to have a business. You know, Tony's like right away, hey, you got to go see NEO Fund, you know, here's the number, here's the people. So even if you just talk about the fund, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. So anything you can do that you can do well. You're a foundation, connect with us, collaborate with us. You're a business, connect with us, collaborate with us. We'll find ways to do some. And by the way, if it doesn't work in your self-interest, we're not interested in doing it either. Isn't that strange? Sounds like a strange thing to say, doesn't it? But it's the truth. We decline when it's not going to do better for the people we're working with. Why bother? And when it's not going to do better for us, why bother? Right? It's the only way to build some momentum is to make sure that it's a win-win. So the last thing I want to say is that we're what, 3 or 4 years into this, and it appears, you know, that we're beyond the total bumbling stage, and we're just barely getting to a little bit of momentum. Someday, with God's grace, will be a movement. You know, just the timing will be very good if we're a movement, and the movement will be on the part of all of us, and will only be if we accept that we're going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I did have a great business. I lucked out, and actually 2 great businesses now, and you know, some silly situations in my mind occur because of that, and you know, I get the question, you know, how'd you do it? And I love to say, because it's the truth, is we were a 19-year overnight success. You know, our overnight success came in 19 years. Please don't forget that. You know, suspend judgment when we do something stupid. You know, suspend judgment when one of our entrepreneurs, you know, doesn't serve you wisely or doesn't do something good. Because this is a long slog. This is not a big race that we're going to put a buzzword and advertising slogan on and, you know, fool everybody for a couple of years. This is a long slog. It's a perpetual slog if we do it right. You know, it's that 2 steps forward and that 1 step back. And so if you can, take our kind of a little bit of what we apply to it is you have to forecast, because there's nothing that works unless you have a plan and unless you make, you know, something very tightly planned for what you want to do. Then you have to forgive when you don't meet your numbers or somebody doesn't do something right, and you got to take the bigger picture that you're going to go on to something better. And the biggest thing of all is to focus on the people. Most of you here know what Jake Sposito is going through right now. And Kelly and his little brother and sister and everybody has rallied. even I can't remember Joe's last name. Joe's become the little old coffee maker, does it for free, God bless him, won't take a dime for it. And Jake, when we tried to reach out at first to hold up because of the tragedy that he's facing at 35 years old, said, don't work for me. Work for the street. Work for the town. Work for the county. We got something cool going here. I'll let you know if I need something. In the meantime, how about just building something? And all that reminds me is it all comes back to people. So let's build something together. And then we're supposed to take questions, is that right? We'll make up the answer, that's promise. If we don't have the answer, you know how they say, if I don't have the answer, I'll get it to you. We actually do it differently. If we don't have the answer, we'll make it up. Anybody?
Yeah, one of the most important economic activities in Ashtabula County is agriculture.
We couldn't agree more.
What are you doing to look at agriculture and see how you can help the overall agricultural economy in the county?
It's a great question, and it's the same unfortunate answer I give to any broader question like that. When the Crotchkos or the Arn, the winery guy, or there's a honey maker in Orwell, when they come to us, we work with them. And we get our arms around that one agricultural business and figure out a way to help them succeed. As you'll see in the logo and the thing, it's organic growth. So the bad news of my answer, sir, is I don't have a plan for changing agriculture in Ashtabula County, for growing it and making it good. The good news is any agricultural business, we are delighted to sit down with and do whatever we can. We'll literally work with them just the same way we work with anybody.
But to that thought, meaning part of the strategic plan of tourism is to concentrate on local food. It changes your community. And we're proving that by the fact that most of the businesses on Bridge Street and the fine dining around the county, including the Lake House Inn Winery and Tarsitano's, they require that they get much, if not most, of what they use locally. And to increase that, on the 28th of this month, we're getting together the producers, the growers, with the restaurateurs, who are what I consider the true believers, that this is a game changer, that this is really not something that's a niche right now, but this is the way we're going to evolve. But a lot of it is awareness. What is being grown and who would utilize that? If we can put those two matches together, then they will create their own cluster. And I think that we will get, again, agriculture has always been our mainstay, and I think that these young entrepreneurs are going to take that to the next level.
So I can't resist. She's quite right, because most of you know 60 cents of the dollar in an Ashtabula's pocket goes elsewhere, doesn't stay in the county. So it's real cool what she's saying, and I do know it's called the local boar movement, and she's been very helpful, and Winchell's and those people are working on it. But really my answer is back to, I won't get too deep, but we did this similar thing in greater Cleveland, really in downtown, in the inner city Cleveland, we're doing the same thing. We've got about $5 million in lending out in Cleveland right now through micro lenders. It's not just about serving each other, particularly if there's a difficult area. It's about ramping businesses that can go beyond. So when we're talking to that honey person, it's about how to package and retail their honey statewide. So she's quite right. We got to do local more. We also got to help businesses figure out, like the people we admire, the crystals and the premixes. And I was just talking to Todd, and he's like, well, what we're doing is trying to innovate with people all over the country. They love us because we innovate. Well, it's a local employer. It makes a huge difference, but you got to go bigger as much as you can too. Any other questions? I think we're probably running out of time, aren't we? I see people kind of moving around, kind of looking for their code in their briefing, and that's okay. Any other questions? Dynamite, thanks a million for having me.